Alright guys, time to finalize our model preparation video setup here for Painter. Now in this video we'll be talking about several different themes, well not themes but topics on several topics, and a lot of them will have to do with workflows and the general capability of Painter when it comes to working with your mesh in terms of detail and generally coloring and all sorts of other stuff when it comes to textures. So first I want to go into a Painter over here and just duplicate a little bit of what I've got last time, and we can talk about it a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and just open up a new file here, select this, just the same thing as before. Select my low, the one that we used yesterday. I'm going to use 2K for it, and say OK. This will load it in, and unsurprisingly there's our object. And if we take a look at our UVs, you will see that actually it turns out they're a little bit crooked from before. I don't know what happened. It's the exact same model, but we do have an issue here. But nevertheless, we definitely won't be using this model for much longer, so this will be doing great for just illustrative purposes. Now I'm going to go ahead and bake my thingy here, which is my normal map, and I'll grab the high poly. Where is it? Over here. And I will simply bake, and I'm even going to go ahead and just subsample this to 8x8, and I'm going to just reduce the distance of the ray here, the ray cast. By the way, you can just use the low poly as a high poly if you just want to bake a normal map. It's not a necessity to have a high poly model, but it certainly helps, especially if you have some intricate details there. All right, so I'm gonna bake Phong 1 textures or whatever it is, right? We're gonna talk about the texture set in a minute. I just wanted to show you a little trick in case you're just desperate, or you just can't be arsed, or you really you've tried everything that we're gonna be talking about in a little bit, and you don't get good results. So you have to know that you can always fall back onto this primitive but somewhat effective method of fixing a little problem. Okay, so what do we have before? This is our bake here, and I should mention, by the way, that a lot of times you could get an artifact simply due to the fact that you're working with a non-infinite entity object, which is the texture. So our current texture on the normal map is 2K by 2K, right? It's 2000 by 2000, meaning that if I keep zooming in, eventually I'll start seeing these. Let me delete this guy. If I can delete it. There we go. Now, eventually I'll start seeing this pixelation. That is simply because I am having to work with a finite object, which only has so much resolution, whereas a model is kind of like an infinite resolution, because the more you zoom in, the more the vertices is going to be basically the mesh, the surface of the mesh between the vertices is going to be recalculated, and you're not going to have this kind of smudging and smearing. And as you can see, there's definitely problems here with our seam. Obviously, in most cases, there's definitely techniques to hide this seam, and seams are impossible to remove completely, because any 3D object mapped to a 2D plane will have to be cut up from somewhere. So completely removing seams and having a perfect UV layout is almost always just a waste of your time. Obviously, you don't want to follow some standard practices when it comes to UVs. What we did here, by the way, is not ideal, because I cut these apart, but I didn't really straighten them out. So I'm not using the full capability of my UV set here, because look at how much texture space I'm simply wasting. And the reason to straighten these out, by the way, is only in order to save space, right? You could grab these and put them down over here, for example, and if you straighten all of these out, you could probably fit everything in here in this, like a small square like that. It'll still probably look good. Okay, well, maybe not such a small square, but something like this maybe. And if this was a gun, your barrel would definitely not be taking that much space. Like your barrel would be probably, I don't know, 5%, or maybe at most 10% of your overall texture size. Obviously, depending on the gun, right? If you got a Beretta whose barrel goes like right through the middle, you'll probably have much more space dedicated to the actual texture. But other than that, you will most likely you know, stack these together so you can put more, you know, the handle or whatever it is that you want to put in there. Okay. That being said, I just want to make sure that you understand why I did this. All right. And I believe over here, if I go into UVs, oh, I don't have any UVs. I deleted them because I wasn't happy with them. Well, that's great. Anyway, don't worry about them for now. We're gonna talk about the UVs later down the line in this video. I just wanted to make sure that you understand the idea that your UVs, first of all, need to be within the 0 to 1 space. Otherwise, they'll be you know, U-dimension UVs, which is, look, it's a huge pain in the ass to work with. Well, maybe not, but it's just you're wasting space, right? Not space, but memory. It's a waste of memory. Certainly usable, you know, if you really want to be a daredevil, you definitely can use it. But I think you'll be just creating more headaches for yourself than necessary, since if you need more resolution, just, you know, increase the size of your map. And if you have to go, you know, higher than 8K, then you're probably in the wrong field, because, like, you know, higher than 8K, you're probably talking about movie level or CGI level of texture mapping, which is kind of overkilling it. All right. Anyway. That being said, let's go back into our model so that we can talk a little bit about, oh yeah, last thing here. When it comes to the seams, there's one more thing when it comes to them seams, is you want your shells to be in a sufficient enough space between each other so that, well, you don't want them to be overlapping inside the UV space, all right? And by the way, the reason you're seeing these sharp edges over here is because our smooth mesh is well, it's round. Okay, it's a round mesh, round shape, and you know, a high poly, that's what it was, that's why it's a high poly. However, our low poly is too low poly. Okay, and it does not approximate the shape of you know, of the high poly closely enough. All right, and this can also create a problem, obviously, in this case. Not only that our, for example, our bottom plane could be perhaps be projected on the top of the side, on the top side of the plane, right? You could have this projection, but the very fact that this is absent over here, right? I mean, there's a little bit of tearing, but that's mostly due to tessellation again, you know, pixelation when you're actually, you know, zooming in on something like this. It usually improves once you increase the resolution a little bit. There's a slight improvement, but not a lot. And like I said, again, it is also possible that some of these things get a little bit projected over onto the other side when you have a sharp edge like this. Okay, and this is, of course, most likely created. Now, I'm not an expert, obviously, but I think it's very obvious in this case that you know, this area here is created by having a round object being projected on top of a non-round object. So there's really no data to be projected onto these little corners here because they don't exist in our high poly version. And that is obviously a problem because it makes it look like shit. However, there's one more thing we did. If we take a look at our UV map over here, there's also problems, you know, in the corners here where we have, you know, not a close enough approximation. This blue part, by the way, you can tell clearly it's round, and this is our high poly model. Our low poly model is sticking too much. And remember, I told you, when you smooth something, you lose volume on it. And, you know, obviously, as you keep increasing the subdivisions on it, yeah, you'll be regaining some of that volume, but at the end of the day, you're still losing it. So whenever you're doing this kind of stuff, you want to have your low poly to be approximately close to your initial form, right? You don't want to have something ridiculously huge like this. It's in most cases, it could be, you could get away with having a little bit bigger high poly than low poly, but having a bigger low poly than high poly will almost always cause an issue, you know, when it comes to your map generation. All right, that's one. And two, over here you can see that we have the same problem basically across the board here. You can ignore this artifact. That's due to the weird, I don't know, with weird bug, whatever. This shouldn't have happened here on the UV. I don't know what happened. But there's one thing that I want to tell you using this shitty normal map is that things such as these, you can modify a normal map, such as you can paint on top of it, and you can fix some problems that come with it, all right? So to further illustrate this, looking at this, right? Remember, the normal map gives the information on how to calculate the light and what is the apparent visual depth of the object, at the given observational angle. So if I go ahead and try to paint on top of the normal map, I should be I could basically neutralize, this whole situation here. So how is this done inside Painter? Well, right now, what you need to do is change the normal mixing from combine to replace. This will basically remove the normal map. If we take a look here, there is no more normal map, as you can see, right? This is with our normal, right? All this damage here, whatever, holes, and this is without the normal. And you might say that this kind of defeats the purpose, so now we don't have a problem, but we also don't have a normal. But essentially, this means we need to do this the manual way. And basically, you create a fill layer, and you go into your project, stuff, like resources, and you just grab your normal map. Well, you don't need the color to hide the roughness in the metal. You just need the normal. Grab it and drag, dump it on top of the the normal channel here. And what's the story now? What is my problem? Am I projecting tripod? Oh, no. I think, yeah, I'm scaling the UV too much, so it should be 1 so that it matches. There we go. No tiling, and we're pretty much set here to fix our error, which is over here. In order to do that, however, we need to change the blending mode, and I'm not going to talk about blending modes just yet, but if you've been, like I said, familiar with Photoshop, you should be fairly well versed in what blending modes are. So I'm going to select the normal channel, and I'm going to change the normal channel's blending mode to normal, which just means regular, right? Not normal as in normal detail, which is at the bottom, which is normal combined detail, inverse detail. Like I'm going to change it to regular, okay? So I'm in the normal channel. Okay, we're not going to talk about this right now anyway, because it doesn't matter. I'm not going over the UI with you. I just wanted you to understand that it is possible to paint on top of it. And in order to paint, you just have to create a new layer, and you start painting. Well, sorry, my bad. You need to be painting in the normal channel, like this, and you need to be painting with just the normal information. And now you can eliminate your problem. Now, obviously, I'm kind of fucking up the light calculation as well, but it's a sacrifice you're going to have to make, unless, of course, you want to go ahead and do this, the manual way. Obviously, you wouldn't want to be doing this to fix your, your model if it is possible for you to do so topologically. But post-mortem, if you've already done all the texturing, you just suddenly realize, or you see like a small little problem in your normal map, you're like, oh shit, I gotta fix that. Well, this is a way to fix it, all right? You can also add details should you desire, but there's definitely, well, I don't know. It depends. Obviously, you can modify how much of an influence you want to have on top of your paint, so you can just be a little bit more gentle. So in this case, maybe I want to be dropping my alpha quite a lot, something like this, and just sort of just a little bit of softening the impact of all of this stuff, especially over here, for example, right? I can soften this and give it a more, genuine look. All right, so this is going to give me something. Could also, if this was a grayscale, I could inverse this stuff and see what it is. So I'm softening a lot of the impact here, and it just looks a little bit better. So there's definitely something you can do to sort out your little, problem with the UVs. And like I said, it's definitely possible to go in there and go down and dirty, Jesus Christ, come on then. There we go. Go get down and dirty here and just start painting, right, like so, right? Oops. So let's just say we go like this and just full on opacity, and obviously you could change maybe the the way your brush is, right? So you could go into your brush and just go into alpha. I believe there was a way to make this thing square. Yeah, hardness to the max. And this is a circle now. So it could get the job done as well. So as you can see, here's my circle. I'm just going to be painting on top of it. And let's take a look at the effect, by the way, because this is what I'm doing, right? I'm just getting rid of all this garbage that we've built up. Okay, here it is. So I'm kind of like having a universal color. So I'm not really doing much. But we can clearly see a difference. If I go back into material mode over here, you can clearly see the difference, an error and no error. And you can do the same obviously on this side as well, just to clean up some of this mess that you've created. And after that, of course, you could just export this texture as separately, and then you can import it and dump it over here in the normal map. Use combine so you can continue, doing your thing. Now, obviously, since I have combine right now, and I got another, I basically double. I just stack two normal maps on top of each other. That's why I'm creating this issue. But I'm just gonna, hide this and remove this, for example. And this is our initial normal map that we have. Okay, this is the initial normal map. This is the regular normal map, and this is with our fill layer where we just modified and fixed some issues here, right? Also, there's a little bit of a bonus here as well. You could talk about how much of an opacity you want, right? How much of a, like, instead of just painting on top of it, maybe you just want it to be not as prominent. And you could do the same, obviously, on whatever you've painted on as well. So there's definitely loads of control here. I myself am not that big of a fan of doing this. I prefer to having my normal map untouched by manual labor, especially since it sometimes like if you start changing colors, if you're really that crazy of trying to get the right color for the normal map, then kudos to you. But in general, you'll be making mistakes. Okay. So I'm going to put this back to combine, and there's one last thing I wanted to mention when it comes to this object. Okay, the last thing to mention is the fact that even if I had like the best possible topology and the right shape and a much better high poly object, instead of just having randomly dumped this stuff over here, at the end of the day you will always find an issue with your model if you zoom in close enough. Now, the important thing here is to not go gung-ho, to perfection, because I've gotten down that rabbit hole. It could take hours and hours of your time to fix just, pixels, like pixels. Because at the end of the day, even this shitty patchwork job that I did, like I wasn't even trying with this thing, right? If this is all the way at the back and nobody will see, if this is somewhere like this, if the player's, let's say, if the player's looking top down and this is what he's going to see, I'm basically not only wasting time, I'm also wasting resources, because I'd be using 2K, and in this case, 1K will be fine. Maybe even 512 will be fine. Geez, maybe even 255 will be fine. There's a little bit of a difference now, right? So there's a difference. But if you zoom out enough, you're really not going to see it. And this is where, obviously, level of detail comes in. But that's in games where your draw distance is long enough to actually have level of detail. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. But the point is that in games in general, when you're looking far away, you're not going to see the 4K texture here. Okay, because you're not going to make out the details. You're probably not even going to notice this stuff here. So that's why the engine usually... There's automatic. It can do it automatically. It reduces the poly count of objects in the back, and I believe it also downscales textures automatically. But you can obviously add manual level of detail if for much better optimization. My point here, the point I'm trying to make here, is that you have to know how much of a detail, and you have to know when to quit. All right, you have to know how much detail you need. You have to know how much perfection you need. Now, if this was a weapon that the player would be staring at all the time, like imagine if this was like a gun, all right, and this would be in the player's face all the time, such a thing would be unacceptable, right? Obviously, like this would be unacceptable because they would see it. Even these seams would be unacceptable because they'd be obvious. Right? But if this was like super far away, nobody would give two shits about it. Obviously, you have to also consider the importance of the object that you're modeling. If it's like a mundane pebble on the road, don't go too nuts with it, because you'll be just wasting time. And as an indie developer, like if you're a one-man team or just like a small team, like time is your most valuable resource, and you must distribute it accordingly. All right. Okay. That being said, we can go back into Maya and you know, talk about the UVs a little bit. Now, here in the UVs, now since I deleted them, I don't know if I should just bother. You know what? I'm just gonna import the old top low over here. I believe there it is. What is this now? What happened? Where's my top low? This is for later, so you get to ignore that for now. But I kind of thought I imported this top low. Come on, man! Don't do this to me now. Can we just import, please? Okay. Import, please. Thank you very much. Wait, what? Oh God, man, this is so annoying. What a load of balls. All right, fine. Forget about it then. I wanted to show you the idea with the UVs, but I'm going to use the UVs over here. All right. So before we go into the UVs and what I just spoiled you, basically, I had to do this separately so that I don't take too much time just doing the video. So I'm just going to do this using you know, this material, this little you know, this little separate mesh here. Okay, what do I want to show you? Take a look at the name. It says top_low_ID. Now, what does the ID stand for? And with this is exactly what we're going to dive into right now. Let's say I want to add a color to this mesh, but I don't want it to be only a universal color, but I want it to have like different color sets. And these color sets would be masks so that I could go ahead, import this into Painter, and paint only the stuff that is, for example, the red stuff, right? Or maybe I just want to paint this area here. So imagine if I go ahead, right, and grab this face, and I just take this face, this loop, and this, and this loop. Come on, dude, and this loop, and let's say I want to grab this loop at the bottom as well. Okay, so this will be something like my details. Okay, so let's say I grab this as well, and this side as well, right? Oh, what else? Maybe I just grab the top too. Might as well, right? And what else could I grab? Well, maybe I could have like a couple of lines, right? So if I grab maybe this over here, and what is this? Is there an equivalent on this side? There isn't one. So I'm going to grab two. That should be symmetrical enough. So I grab two here, right? And then maybe I just simply grab these three faces like so. Obviously, I'd be doing this with the symmetry on, but since this is like an impromptu thing, I won't be, because I already have my selection in. So let's just say that I want this to be what I want. Like maybe just add a couple of more. Like so. There's also, I believe there was a way to select every nth one. No. Okay, let's just do this the good old-fashioned elbow grease way. There we go. All right, so this is what I want to have painted in Painter, and this is what I want Painter to be recognizing as. So what do I need to do? Well, I've already created a couple of materials before, so I'm going to say I'm going to assign an existing material, and this will be my details material, and that's obviously green. I'm going to invert my selection, and I'm going to assign my body, which should be red. Okay, I inverted my selection, but I kind of screwed it up when it comes to okay, what just happened? When I said invert selection, I should have inverted the damn selection. I never. Okay. All right, that's fine. Look, just rename the rest of this. Just rename whatever's left over. All right, and I already renamed the mesh to balls because I was pissed off at something. Can't even rename the sucker now. Well, it's gonna have to stay at Phong1. There's a way to select everything that is affected by you know, a material, but I'm not gonna bother with this right now. So we're gonna leave it as it is. All right. So Phong1 and details. Jeez, I'm still pissed about that selection. This should have inverted it. All right. Anyway, let's go ahead and export this and see what happens. I'm gonna select this, just export selection and export it over here, and just I'm gonna call this. I already have one texture set here prepared for you. I wanted to use it, you know, prior to this, but maybe I should have used that one. Oh boy. All right, I should have. See, I had it prepared, and I just overrode the damn thing. But look, this is we're still going strong. We still got this. You know, this is not a problem. So there we go. Top texture set. I'm gonna open this up, and this should give you what? Oh God, there's no UVs. Oh, all right. No UVs, fine. No, I'm just gonna do like a UV or like an automatic UV. I'm sorry, just fucking fuck it. There we go. Now, I don't even know what this thing gave me as a result, but it doesn't matter. Export selection, texture set. I even had UVs on that other guy. Damn. Talk about a waste of time. Discard this shit. All right, let's go ahead and grab my texture set. Why do we even go through the trouble of preparing this shit if I'm not gonna? Okay, all right. The yeah. Oh wow. Well, look, it's not the worst. Well, yes, it is. Well, it could be worse. I don't know. It could definitely be worse. So if we go ahead and take a look at our object over here, the kind of the color is gone, right? There's no color, and that is an issue, isn't it? Well, you could say that is an issue unless you take a look at the right side. You've got the details and the would-be body, and this actually is a very powerful thing on this right side here because it allows me to quickly and effectively target particular parts of my mesh, which I've already selected previously, and add details to it. So if I go ahead and say, grab my wood and say I'm gonna just make this beach, peach, whatever. So my like this top would be wooden, but my details would be aluminium or something. We got red aluminium, but we need to actually add this to the details. My bad. There we go, details, just add the aluminium, and boom, we have the damn thing working, right? So this is our spinning top, and it doesn't look like a spinning top, does it? It looks like some kind of weird lamp or a spaceship. But at the end of the day, this is just an example, right? Notice that it's, the funny thing is, the UVs are actually pretty good. I mean, you don't actually even see that much of an issue with the normal map because we did not bake a normal map. I forgot to bake well, I wouldn't be baking a normal map right now anyway. Because this is just an example for the texture set. What I wanted to show you is the fact that you can have these two different sides. You just turn them on and off. Allows you to work on an individual piece that you have isolated prior in another application and just tagged it with the material ID. And the material ID being the name of the material that the mesh has once you import it into Substance. Now, this has a limitation, however, a very serious limitation. If I decide to export what I already have right now, let's say I want to export, all of my texture sets, everything, like if I want to have this result in my engine, Painter will, and Substance will, but in general, not just Painter, but Designer as well, will export a texture set, a set of textures per texture set. I don't know if that makes any sense, but let me just reiterate this for you. A set of textures for a texture set. I think this still doesn't make sense. Maybe I just said the same thing. All right, look. Let's say this is a tank. All right, the tank. And Fong1 is actually, I'm gonna rename this guy to Gun, and this is Threads. Obviously, clearly you can rename them here. So if it's Fong1, don't worry, you can rename it in the damn texture set list. But if I decided to export the textures right now, if this was a tank, which it isn't, but if it was, I would get a set of textures for my gun and then another set of textures for my threads instead of getting one set of textures for both the gun and the threads. You might say, well, how is this a big deal? I'll tell you how is this a big deal. You got a lot of different maps. First of all, you got your normal map, AO. You got like maybe curvature or thickness. You got your base colors. You got all these different maps that you're going to be importing there. It's like if you decide to import a light map or any other map, there's definitely loads of maps you can import. There's loads of data you can encode into a 2D image because it's basically code, so you could use RGB to your advantage, and you can encode any data that you want. You can have a vector field, right? Whatever floats your boat. So as your texture sets increase, so will the amount of your textures increase. And if all of them are 4K, file sizes can get bloated really quick. Like I could make this spinning top to be, maybe all the, like upwards to 30-40 megabytes, probably even more if I add enough texture sets. I could go ad infinitum. So this is definitely something you need to consider, especially if you're creating like a mobile game or something for a low powered device. And even then, you really don't want to be wasting memory on something so small or insignificant. When you could easily do this, you could just use the same performance. You would gain the same performance with something important. All right. Point is, again, if this is looked from far away, you don't need that much information stacked on top of it in terms of, in the form of a picture. All right. That's number one. And number two, by the way, here is also the fact that if this is 4K, if my threads are 4K and my gun is 4K, I effectively have an 8K texture. Now, that's not to say that I need to have the exact same texture. Maybe my threads are made of rubber and my tank is made of steel. Or maybe my tank is made of rubber altogether, right? It doesn't matter. The point is that it is still taking up 8K of RAM. Like it's still 8K by 8K technically. It should take the same amount of RAM. Meaning that if I really wanted all that much detail, I could perhaps, let's just say, split up my gun into the barrel and the actual the piece where the gun connects to the to the tank, and then I could have the body split up in 4 or 5, right? And I can just keep adding and dumping texture sets because and it's not possible in this version, but I've already downloaded the new one where you could propagate a layer throughout texture sets, meaning that once you have something done, right, you could say, all right, I want this camo pattern, for example, to be both on my on my whole tank, right? I got a camo pattern. I want it to be on my whole tank instead of just painting a camo on my gun, then doing the same thing on my treads or copying, pasting things from gun to treads, right? But at the end of the day, you will be having a huge amount of detail and a lot of texture maps because you have like 15 texture maps, for example, all creating one camo image, whereas you could have just used one camo image, okay? Obviously, 15 4K textures are going to be a lot more detailed than one 4K or an 8K texture, but it's a sacrifice you have to make if it is necessary. All right. Obviously, one of the last benefits here is that it's a very simple way to work. Okay, it's very easy to understand what it is you're doing. Not so with the alternative, which we're going to be talking about next. Now, the alternative here, by the way, is I should have probably just talked about. Okay, the alternative in this case is to essentially create a ID map. And this is why I call it an ID. Essentially, this means that I will go ahead and the same way I bake the normal, I will bake a color map. And the color map would correspond to this particular position. All right. But I'm not going to do that right now. We'll do that later because I want to talk a little bit about dissecting and the dissector. At least that's how I call it. Now, I forget what Allegorithmic called it. Their baker, I think they called it something cool as well. Their baker was called something amazing. What was it? Damn it now. It doesn't matter. It was something cool. You should Google it. It was funny. The abbreviature was funny. And, it was, I think it was something like steel, iron. It was something badass. It was something badass anyway. Okay, so whatever it is, it's awesome. Anyway, let's go back into Maya here so that I can finish up with this one-man monologue and we can continue where we left off. Now, I already have my thingy done here. So this is gray and this is this is green, right? This is my setup here. And this will be my color ID map. Now this is zeroed in and I can safely hide this because we will be talking about the dissection process. Now, what is the dissection process? Let's go ahead and just open up the low here. The dissection process allows me to split up the object, and we haven't actually used it in Painter because we never actually needed to do it so far. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. If I take my top now and I just move it up, you will see that there's nothing inside, right? Wow, right? This is like a magic right here. But what this means is that if I name these correctly, okay, if I name this correctly and I match them with my high version, so look at top, low, and top, high, meaning that these two will be matched together and only these two will be used when projecting. I'm not going to be getting something like, oh, this wall over here, like this little surface over here could get projected in the corner of this other surface here. Or maybe this is too sharp, and in this case I believe I have my bottom here, yeah. So if this is too sharp and these two surfaces get projected on top of each other, just dissect them, separate them, and name them apart. In other words, as far as Painter is concerned, this is like this. Okay, these two are isolated. There's nothing here, so there's nothing to project across. Okay, there is, however, one other problem with this workflow, and it is not a fault of Substance, but it is a fault of mine. Now, it is my hope that in the future it will be entirely possible to, like in the future, one of the two things will have to happen to be awesome, right? Will have to be awesome. Number one would be to be able to bake by matching the material IDs in Substance Painter, or have something more than just a freaking transform group in Maya in order to operate on a multi-object level. Okay, what I mean by this is, well, you'll see fairly soon. But let's just say that this is our final result, right? We've cut this apart and it all looks good. The problems come immediately after you realize that, for example, you can't sculpt on a multi-object mode, right? So if I select this right now, I am limited in options, right? I can translate this up and down, but I'm not interested in that, right? Then again, Maya was not really designed for this, and no one in his right mind would actually have like this isn't very common in a workflow, as far as I know. Now, if you're a Maya guru and you know how to get this done, by all means enlighten me. But I don't think this is in any way, shape, or form functional in most cases, right? If you separate something, you probably want it to be separate from the object. Right? Very, very rarely you'd want it to be exactly on the object. Usually you'd be just pairing them together. Not to mention that you're just creating more vertices, right? You wouldn't be doing this by default. Okay, so that's my top low, and I'll show you why this is a problem, by the way, where it's pretty difficult to work with. I'm gonna enable my top high. Now this is the top high, and we're gonna be, by the way, we'll double tap this and we'll do this overall with everything else when it comes to our little well, should I say, experiment, and I will show you the real power of Substance where it comes in. Well, not that it isn't powerful already, but there's a bunch of stuff that is really cool and it does a really good job at, which does not obviously demean the other software, but just you got options, especially when it comes to workflow. Anyway, in this case, let's say I decide to grab like all 4 of these, right? Grab all 5 of them, and I want to sculpt. Right, I want to add some detail. God damn it! So there's my sculpt tool, and what's it gonna tell me? Tell me what's it gonna. What do you think? What do you think the sculpt tool will tell me right now if I start sculpting? I'm currently sculpting on top, high, shape. I'm currently sculpting on this. I cannot sculpt on this. Oh well, it would be nice if I actually grabbed something. Sorry, 1 second. Surprisingly, actually, I can. That's pretty neat. Last time it didn't work out. Maybe in the update it did, because I never did it since the update. All right, so let's just use a different stamp here, because I've been using something here before. I want to use an Illustrator here. I'm going to use the rubble. Okay, I'm going to use this rubble here, and I will sculpt with the rubble, and I'll randomize the rubble. in order to get a consistent result. So there I got some bulging here, and I'm gonna just grab something across. I'm gonna do some inward bulging inside. Now this is obviously not very realistic, and you wouldn't be doing this in Maya because look at the freaking ridiculousness of it. Oh god, I need to get rid of lazy mouse. Where's my lazy mouse? Oh god, I'm using the sculpt tool. Ha! I should have used the wax. Okay, and I got a different setting. Let's use the rubble again here. And I think I removed my steady stroke. Yeah, steady stroke is gone on this, and I wanted to use the wax anyway. So let's wax a little bit more. Let's wax away. Oh boy, there we go. Let's just keep waxing it. Just keep waxing it. There's one more on this side. Just let's show some love at the bottom. Right, it's fairly strong stuff. Right, I'm doing a lot of damage to the object here. In fact, I'm probably doing some pretty ridiculous damage here to the object, but whatever. Right, now I'm using only the rubble in this. Oh god, for crying out loud, autosave. Oh, there's gonna be autosaving for ages now. Why did you not ask me? This is why you need to have your autosave to be askable. Oh wow, this took long. This was faster than I thought. Usually due to the high amount of polygons, well, relatively speaking high, you know, Maya starts to chug, and I mean chug. Okay, well, that's pretty cool, I suppose. Maybe we should just lower the size a little bit, and maybe lower the strength a little bit. Yeah, something like this. No need to go gung-ho. For some reason, though, the scale isn't really randomized. I don't know how much randomize actually randomizes. I think it randomizes everything in here, including the strength. So if I go ahead and say, well, I want to be as random as possible, so maybe I go like a scale and rotation and X position and Y position and see what happens then. Right, maybe this is a little bit too wild in terms of you know, positioning. So let's just say I want to be having something a little bit more tight. Yeah, this is doing some really weird stuff. All right, well, let's say that I'm already done, that I've basically created whatever it is that I wanted to create. Clearly the strength is not long enough, so maybe like this. Yeah, I'm doing something, am I? Maybe this is the variation that I need. Yeah, a little bit better. Need to increase the magnitude. Like this. I wonder if this even matters in this case. Yeah, definitely. This randomization thing doesn't really work out for me, I think. But anyway, we have some damage on only this side of our object, all right? I'm going to exit the tool right now. Come on, exit, please. Thank you. And I'm actually very surprised that it was possible for this to perform like that. Because usually, maybe I just selected like this last time and I decided to go sculpting. And then yeah. Yeah. I think this will not give me the ability. Yeah. It has to be in whatever it is, like whatever it is you've selected. So there's no way you can, you get to work on any of these. Right? Let's try this one more time. Sculpting tool. And let's say I want to work on this side here. Yeah. But you probably get to select the whole thing. If you select the whole thing, it should give you the option to work on it. Yeah. Huh, well, that's cool. Well, you learn something new every day. Okay. Anyway, that being said, let's just get on with it, because this is taking longer than I that I really wanted to be taking. Okay, so that being said, we can now minimize this and extend this, and just talk a little bit about how this is going to work. Remember, the rays go from one side into the other, right? It goes like this, and then whenever it intersects with the other geometry, you get the detail that you need, right? You get the appropriate detail right into the the object. So hopefully we will get a sort of a good bake, right? Not only that we've separated these things, meaning that right now if I grab the low, and I'm going to hide the high. If I grab the low, right, and my high, and my low and my high. Okay, maybe this one. No, this one. And this one. No. Which one? Which is the one over here? Okay, if we just freaking, there we go. This one, so we need body. Okay, I'm gonna isolate these two. You will notice that, well, if this wasn't hidden, you will notice that this is the only thing that's gonna happen, right? As far as substance is concerned, or in this case painter, but substance is the whole thing, these are the only objects in the scene. As long as they are at with the same name, we will have, an easy enough bake, and there won't be something interfering with them. All right, so now what I'm going to do is essentially export these separately. So let's grab the top, which is already, by the way, oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the UVs on it, by the way. So let's grab it and see the UVs. So here they are. I've reprojected them, by the way, because like I said, you wouldn't want to be, like, it was just stupid in general to straighten these out unless you need the space. If you don't need the space, you get a much better coverage and a much better resolution on your UVs if you just keep them, circular. You can even like stack them together. You could put this one inside here. You could put this one, I don't know, like this one. These two you could actually, I think, stack together. So that's pretty cool. Well, you got definitely you definitely got options here when it comes to working with the UVs. And in general, you'd only be straightening them out when you need, like I said, to put them at the bottom or the top. So you'd cut over here and you just, straighten the UVs or the shell, like whichever settings you want. 9 degrees. When did I set this up? 45. Let's just put it in 30, just for the future reference, so that I don't fuck it up again. And yeah, what was I? Oh yeah. But this obviously introduces a seam over here or wherever it is you decide to cut. And in that case, it's like pick your poison. Do you really want to do this? Like, do you want the seam, or do you want to have a better resolution? Do you have more space to fit more stuff in your texture? But what's important here is that when you got something like this where it's cut up to pieces and basically dissected, you don't want stuff to be overlapping. And when you select the group of the object, you want to have these things still be neatly fitting within the 0 to 1 space. Because if I go ahead and select my top, for example, these are the UVs for the top. For the body, these are the UVs for the body. For the bottom, these are the UVs for the bottom. These are the UVs for the bottom feeder, and these are the UVs for the bottom, the body bottom. Okay, loads of bottoms, but the point is that all together, oh wait. Oh yeah, all together they actually making, these things should be at the same. Yeah. Okay, so no problem there at all. In fact, this is actually coming in pretty neatly. Maybe not the neatest. Maybe I could, scale this one a little bit in. Well, this is a little bit too much now. Okay, this is freaking. Maybe I could do something like that, right? If I really want to be accurate, because like I said, you need to have some clearance between these edge borders, but I'm gonna leave it as it is because, like I said, it's not a big deal, at least in this scenario. But almost all the time you want to have some pixel space between the objects, and this is by the way set up in the Unfold 3D when you got the options enabled. If you go over here, well, Unfold, and you got Unfold 3D. And you could just set up not the iterations, but where's my room space? Yeah, room space. Basically, how many pixels you want, to have a distance between these suckers, right? So there's that when you're unfolding. Oh wait. sorry, maybe the layout. Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm getting confused here because of the new setup. But like I said, you need to basically do your little unfold or the layout, which allows you to lay. Oh, there we go. This is where the layout is. Yeah, padding units. Yeah, exactly. I got confused with the other one because they both use Unfold 3D, and I get confused with the Unfold. Anyway, the point is that you want to have some padding between these two once you do your little your little UV mapping, etc. You want to have some padding between the shells. Okay, then I can close this down now, and we can export this and see what we've got. All right, so I'm going to select these two, well, these 5. And I will export them, export selection, and I'm going to call this top, something dramatic, something final, most dramatic thing ever, top final underscore low, and I will export you now. And export is complete. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing onto my top high. I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to file, export select. Oh no, this is gonna give me an error. I gotta send it to Unreal, so I'm gonna send the selection to Unreal. I'm gonna call it top underscore final underscore high. Oops, high. There we go. Enter, and I'm just gonna grab it from the import. I anticipated this. See, I anticipated this. That's why I had my import folder open. Cut this out. Dump it into the test. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. I could actually close this right now because I don't need it. I will keep the test open for now. Last thing that needs to be, did I export the ID map? Did I export the ID map? Texture set. All right, this is the texture set. I could use the texture set. I should just rename it to texture set and ID. And ID. This is the most appropriate one. Notice, by the way, that I changed the name of it, but it did not give me an error, meaning that this is actually a self-contained thing. It's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to open now the new one. Well, not open, but create one. And I'm going to select my top final low. This is the final result that we're going to be getting. At least I'm not going to be bothering any longer with it than I've already had. Okay, let's take a look first at the UVs. Definitely much cleaner. No apparent issues, not immediately anyway. No immediate issues apparently. This will create a problem if they're this close. Like there is like 0 padding between these, so you could see an issue, but I can't be arsed right now with it. Okay, I get it, dude. Fuck me, just I get it. I know. I already fixed that. That was like from freaking previous scene. Okay, next what we need to do is examine our mesh. And for any apparent seams, and sure enough, we do have some seams right over here, and that's expected, definitely expected, especially because this is a hard edge surrounded by soft edges. Now, you could make the case that maybe I didn't need this to be a hard edge. Maybe this would have been fine if this was a soft edge, and you may very well be correct. But first of all, I needed to make an example, so I had to use a hard edge somewhere, and second of all, it's my spinning top, all right? So I get to do what I want with it, all right? And I decided that this spinning top is going to look like shit with a seam right in the middle where it's supposed to be having its head chopped off. Maybe this was a broken spinning top, huh? And was just, super glued back together. So there's loads of these different little theories you could run through your head. And I'm going really sideways here, so let's just stick to the topic. So immediately we don't really see that much of an issue. I mean, it looks all right. It looks all right. There's no really huge of a problem here. So let's just bake these textures, right? Shall we? I'm gonna select none. Just use the normal, right? We're gonna talk about the world space normal, the ambient occlusion curvature, etc. later because my mouth is starting to hate me. All right, and I need my mouth to to drink and eat mostly. Where was I? All right, well, I need to select my... I think I just set myself up for a burn here when I said drink and eat, but whatever. Set this up to high. Remember, we already had the high and low set up. Now we need to be matching by mesh name instead of always, which we've been matching by always so far. Now we'll be using the mesh name. We'll max out the anti-aliasing. We will reduce the distance because we have cleaned up our model fairly well. We don't have a cage. No need for a cage. Dilation width, no need for that either. Output size, let's go for 4K. Oh, let's go for 8K. Let's just go. All right, let's go gung ho. I wonder if this is experimental though. Is it? Maybe not. You want to go 8K? Fuck it. Let's go 8K. Let's go 8K. Boom. I'm baking these fog textures. Now this could take a while. Although I've never baked 8K, really never needed any. You know? So, yeah, I'm starting to lose words. This is not a good sign, definitely. I may have created a problem here. Maybe I shouldn't have gone for 8K. Oh boy. Yeah, this will take a while probably. Notice that I still got the Phong 1 texture set, and now what we're gonna do is essentially utilize the same method of workflow that we did before. In other words, if I want to paint a particular spot and I want to make it red or with aluminium, this aluminium, I will do this without using a separate texture set, and this way I will save myself double the space that I would have used, before, especially if I'm using an 8K. Well, in this case I wouldn't be, because it's an 8K. 8 by 8, 8,000 by 8,000 pixels, but it's the thought that counts. It's the principle, and I think I made a mistake here by letting the damn thing bake for so long. Are you for real? It can't be that difficult to bake an 8 like it's only twice as long to bake it than the 4,000. 4 times as long as baking the 2,000. And it's already been 4 times as long as the 2000, so I'm starting to get worried that this was indeed the experimental feature and wasn't completed. Then why was it in the drop-down menu? You know what? I could cut the video right now and just go to when it's done, but I won't. Because you could scroll this yourself, and because I simply don't feel like I will remember to do it once once I get to editing this stuff. Holy cojones, mate. Dude. Like that is legit. Come on then. Oh boy. Why are you taking so long? How long has it been? You've been watching the video. How long has it been? Like since this started? Because I haven't been keeping track. I think it's been at least 2 minutes. So advice would be don't go for 8K. I mean, I got a pretty fast PC and that shit is not budging. Budging, I say. I think I'm gonna abort. Like not me. I'm gonna abort the painter. But then the question is, if I abort, how close would I have been to completion? All right, fuck it. Just fucking die. Oh, great. Oh, for fuck's sake. All right. Just die. Just please die. Thank you very much. Let's just do this the good old-fashioned way, to go to 2K and no fancy shit, right? Damn, man. Talk about fail. Talk about a fail. Now I don't want to update this. I have it downloaded. I need to install the sucker, because there's a new link between this and UE4. It's freaking amazing. Okay, let's do this again. Let's go for this again. Final low, open up. Well, at least you'll learn the general process of this. Bake textures, grab the high poly. None for now, just use the normal map. Always, let's go 8 by 8. Maybe this was what did it in. The anti-aliasing, maybe that's what did it in. Go for match by mesh name, and we're going to be using a 2K, all right? Drop this down to 0.5 because we did a good job at separating our meshes, and bake our textures. Now this should be much, much faster. If this is as slow as the other one, then it was definitely the subsampling. Anti-aliasing on 5 objects versus another 5 objects. Maybe that's what did it in. And this is a much higher poly count than the first time that we did. But the poly count shouldn't be that much of an issue. But maybe you should just leave it level. Oh, wait. Okay. Wow. All right. All right. It was definitely the 8K texture size. But then if this was 2K and it was done in 10 seconds, then this means that the 8K should have been done in 40 seconds. Excuse me. So I'm sensing a discrepancy there. Okay. Now let's go ahead and take a look what we've got. I'm going to rename this to my main. Just call it main. No, top. Just top. Regular top. Top secret. Well, it looks all right. Doesn't look that bad. I mean, there's definitely some. Okay, we have something here. This is an error. This is an interesting error. Now, do you think this is an issue with the normal map or an issue with the? Well, this is an issue with the normal map, but do you think this is a problem from the high poly or just a problem with the bake? My guess is this is a problem with from the high poly because that's what we baked it from. Yeah, we're gonna have to, like, this is a prime example when you could grab the normal and just fix this yourself. Because I really didn't know what's in here. Like, what is it that we, oh, okay. I see. There's a hole, there's a freaking hole in the damn model. And that's because of the sculpting. You know, it just the frames drop, right? It's like playing on a, it's like playing Crysis on a PlayStation 1 for crying out loud. I mean, no disrespect, PS1 was a powerful machine for the time. Played loads of good games on, but right, off topic again. Right, okay, so yeah, you would fix this ideally. See, this is see, good things do happen to me. This is a prime example. We would grab this, go over here, fix this, export it, re-import, dump it over here, boom, job done. Now I hope in the future, or at least right now, maybe I don't know the method, a much better method. Is just simply to, to go over the normal map instead of just importing, re-importing. I think you could do something here inside, the editor. But you gotta ask either Allegorithmic or somebody else, online, whatever. Just get educated on the topic. But the bake itself is much better, don't you think? I mean, we still have the discrepancy from the high poly over here. We still have a problem here, right? But it is not nearly as prominent and evident as the other one, right? So this is already a step in the right direction. Now, if I go ahead and raise this to 4K, yeah, the 8K is definitely, the 8K was definitely an experimental feature because, as you can see, it's not available here in the sizes. So yeah, there's my channel again. At 4,000, it looks even better. And material level, it's actually pretty solid. Obviously, this was a high poly problem. These errors here, these artifacts, are a low poly geometry problem simply due to the fact that I don't have enough edges over here. Not enough vertices to support this curve. All right, over here in the middle, this looks pretty solid, pretty solid, pretty solid. Let's give it a shot and try to add some wood. If I actually do the wood bit, there we go, wood, and I'm gonna grab the, I don't know, walnut. Let's go for walnut this time. A walnut spinning top. Yes, this looks good, comparatively good. I could use that. I would use that in a game. Maybe I would play around with the triplanar projection a little bit because this is just too obvious that the grain is like this. But I think this is an outdated sharpen filter. It is an outdated sharpen filter, so we're going to use the new one. Should definitely be much better. Boom, this is a lot better. And then if we go ahead and add the, grab the, what's its face? The wood fibers, and we go into triplanar projection, this is even better. And I think our noise color, no, noise color, no, sorry. Our base color needs to be a triplanar projection. I think there's something else that we need to add. The wood fibers need to be triplanar. And once this thing loads, it should be sort of alright. Yeah, nobody will be looking that close. It looks presentable at the very least, okay? And you can even see still the damage over here. Now, obviously, the fibers here are overpowering the damage that we've gotten, but you can see something really cool right now. So first, I'm going to bake an ID map, all right? If I had an ID map, I need to bake it. I'm going to remove this guy. Now, look, it's not a problem if you decided to bake your ID map out of the high definition. You could do that. In other words, what you need to do is grab your high ID map over here, right? And then grab your grab these two. So you'd have the source, and then you have the target, and you go over here and edit mesh and transfer attributes. You can even you can transfer the shading sets, and you go to local and closest to point transfer, and this should have transferred the thing over. And if you take a look, hide this guy, and this didn't transfer shit because I should have selected. Okay, so if I go ahead and select these guys, and now I repeat the process. Okay, not this. It didn't even freaking do it. See, that's why I don't like I don't like this in Maya, because some things don't work very well with multi-object selection. That's what pisses me off. If you have it like this, for example, the sculpting ended up working, but I'm pretty sure this is not going to end up working. Transfer attributes. Let's just go for the transfer attributes. We don't want the UV sets. We simply want the vertex color sets. The current, well, all. I want to be using these world component topology. Yeah. Preserve search method. Let's transfer. Let's see if it transfers. Though it probably won't. Result transfer attributes 1. It's done then. It's great. So it did transfer them, didn't it? Probably not. If it does, I'll be genuinely happy. All right. While this is doing its thing, we will do it on this, in Painter, because this is going to take a while apparently. So let's take the ID over here, and once we grab the relevant ID map, which would be our texture set / ID, we don't need to match by name. We're just going to match always. Subsampling, it's all right. Not a big deal. We're going to use the same cage, the same settings here. So this will essentially give us a color map. Let's bake. Now, since this is simply colors, we shouldn't have problems. But where is my color map? Dude, don't tell me this now. Could not find the vertex colors in Meshlow. What? Upload ID, but I do have colors, do I? I did have colors. Wait. Which one did I use? This is the one, right? Exactly, it is the one. And I do have a set of... There we go. So this should be easy. Now, it didn't transfer shit, by the way, as you can tell, clearly. But yeah, ideally, you'd want to be transferring your... you'd want to have your color map, as in like all of this stuff assigned in terms of color to your, to your high poly, so that you can just bake it at the same time. Now, in my case, for some fucked up reason, this would not actually do this for me. And it's very annoying. Oh god, I'm using a vertex color. Yeah, make sure to grab the material, the freaking material color. All right, grab the material color. They even have a polygroup and a submesh ID. That's pretty cool. That's new. And use obviously a hue shift or random. Okay, just use the material color. All right. Fuck my. Okay, let's do this again. Yeah. Do this again. Yeah. Don't give me that now. This is taking surprisingly long. You didn't used to take that long from before. All right, so we got a color map, finally. Can we take a look at it? I don't believe we can. We actually could just hover over it. There it is. This is our color map. As you can see, there's loads of bleed. There's tons of bleed, but not on, not everywhere else. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we can do about this. If right now I go into my material mode, right, and let's say I want the wooden bits to be everywhere, which they are currently, and I want my aluminium. Actually, I wonder if I got something emissive. Neon, maybe? No. Let's go into just smart materials and just grab a glass visor, right? All right, let's go for glass visor. Now we got our glass visor, and obviously since this is at the bottom, there's really nothing much is going to happen, but this is how it looks like anyway. All right, this is what it looks like. Let's go ahead and add the mask and see what happens. All right. Clearly need to go on top of this. Clearly. And now I'm going to create a mask. Add a mask with color selection. This will allow me to select a color, which is, by the way, this is my ID mask. I need to pick a color, which is going to be obviously green. And this will give me my green color. And this is exactly how you're going to be using this is basically one texture set, but it has the functionality where you just select, a couple of colors from one software and then you just dump on top of the other. Now, usually, like I said, you'd want to have this on top of your high poly. For some fucked up reason, this does not want to take a high poly. My guess is you could just grab these four together and just combine them, right? And after you combine them, just dump the color ID on top of it. As long as they're at the same, like at their origin, they should be fine. The transfer attributes. So this is fucking dead. Yeah, envelope. Like it's all good. For some reason though, it just didn't want to do it. Maybe I screwed up with the settings. I haven't really been paying too much of attention because I kind of need to wrap this up. So I'm kind of in a hurry. Anyway, now you can clearly see the the two workflows available to you. You either create a texture set, or obviously you can work at the same time with the same in the same manner, but it just defeats the purpose. One defeats the purpose of the other in most cases. The only downside to this workflow is the fact that you cannot hide it. Like you can hide this, but you can't hide the actual objects. All right, so that's quite annoying. Unlike in the texture set, we could just decide, well, boom, it's gone, right? And with the color selection masks, you can't actually hide the bit. You could turn off the color. I do think there was actually a way that there was some way where you apply this transparency and you just go full zero, or no, actually you go the opposite way. There was some weird filter you apply and just apply the transparency to the max or something, and it just hides it because it's completely transparent, right? It's fully transparent, but otherwise you would still be able to select it. There is a way to do it. It's not that big of a deal if you really want to. Okay. All right, and now the final thing that I wanted to talk about, the most amazing thing. Now remember, over here I used rubble, right? If we go ahead and take a look at the the tool settings in my sculpt, hopefully if I get into the sculpt, my sculpt tool and my tool settings would be, dude, come on then. My God, Maya is chucking so bad with freaking high poly counts. It's just so annoying. Come on, dude. You can do it. All right, just take my word for it. But we use the rubble, right? If you don't believe me, freaking wind the video back. Okay, rewind the video. But we use this rubble onto Maya. Now, what would happen? What do you think would happen if we used it in Painter? Now in Maya, we had to suffer through this. It's definitely hanging over there. In Maya, we had to suffer through this slow process where we just go and just painfully just paint this stuff. Obviously, I would go and do this in Mudbox instead of Maya. I just wanted to show an example because probably you'd be just sticking to Maya anyway. By the way, let's just activate our viewer setting over here. Max out the environment. Have it nice. Otherwise, it's just for a visual clarity. Anyway, let's just say for a second here that I want to add this detail of damage, but I want to add it in a non-annoying way. Yeah, Maya is dead for sure. Definitely. Maybe I should just kill it, but that's fine. I'll work without it. Now, how do I do this? Very, very simple, my friend. The same way you edit your normal map, you can essentially do so with a, you can either paint on the normal channel with your paintbrush, or you can paint on a height map, and it will be, merged down to a normal, recalculated into a normal. What do I mean by that? Let's go into all and just type rubble. Okay, no. Project. Like, I'm pretty sure I added it. What's the name of it? BW. No. Rubble. No. Well, I'm just gonna re-add it then. Let's go. And I'm gonna add this import as just current session import. This is a, what is it? It's an alpha. So import this guy. There he is. And now I'm simply gonna paint with this dude. All right. I'm gonna create a paint layer. I'm gonna start painting. Where's the fucker? I'm gonna be painting with basically everything. I'm gonna use the alpha here. I'm gonna say that this is the alpha. And now I can start to paint. Now, obviously I'll be painting with the color here. I don't need to paint with the color. I just need to paint with the height, for example, right? Now, this is a little bit too weak, so I need to increase the height of it, right? So now, obviously, you got the same settings. I don't even really need to paint with the normal as well, because this is going to go back to the normal. Now, obviously, there's loads of setups here. Like, you could have a, what is this, follow path. Yeah, I have to recheck some of these settings because I haven't used most of them. But you got your jitter, your flow, your position. So this should create something weird, right? And as you can see, this is a much faster iteration. Now, it does create a different type of feel. This is much stronger, right? You probably need to reduce the opacity of it, so it's not as apparent. And here I could increase the spacing so it's completely random, right? Over here at the bottom, random as fuck. I can change the angle. I don't know what this flow path is, by the way. I have to check. Follow path. Like, which path do you follow? Follow the path of darkness. Yeah, the spacing is ridiculously far away, so I'm getting these crazy results, and this is too big. I need to change the size, and it's flow, angle. Angle doesn't really matter. So yeah, I'm doing some dents. I'm putting some dents into it. Now, I'm not really monitoring what exactly it is I'm doing. For some reason, there is no jitter on the opacity on it. Is there? Angle, position, alignment, tangent, wrap, backface, size. Yeah, we're gonna talk about these in another video anyway, but yeah, I'll take a look at what the follow path is, by the way, because I'm curious. But as you can see, it is entirely possible to detail your stuff only on the 2D mesh, not the 2D mesh, but just the 2D plane, which is the picture, right? And if we take a look at the normal map, well, this is the bump map. There it is. Normal plus height plus base normal. This is what you're gonna get if you export everything right now, right? You got your damage that we painted, right? We can still paint some. You've got your glass, which is a very smooth type deal. Excuse me. And you've got your wood, which's got the wood grain. Now, obviously, this is an idiotic way of performing this because you got all sorts of different tools to enable you to create random stuff, right? Such as scratches and different like wear and tear damage, grunge, like all sorts of dirt, right? Garbage, essentially. So whatever floats your boat, you can add. I think you can even, we're going to talk about what a smart material is and what just a material is. So if we go over here and just write down wood, you will see that there's two of them, right? One of them is a, just smart material. One is a smart material. The other one is just a material preset. You can even have them over here. You got your materials, basic materials, and then you got smart masks, smart materials, and just regular masks. Anyway, I'm getting into the next topic, which is actually starting to operate with Painter. So now that you have an understanding of what does what and which is which in Painter and Maya, did it in it unclogged. Believe me, it unclogged. But yeah, here's my proof. We did use Rubble. It's the same Rubble, right? Now look, you might argue that you could get better results in 3D, but definitely don't use Maya, right? Use either Mudbox or do it in Painter, but definitely don't use Maya because you're just setting yourself up for a crash or for failure. Just pressing Q takes ages, right? I think it just crashed. I just tried to exit from sculpting and it just crashed. Yeah. So in the next video, what are we gonna do? We're gonna set up the worm, right? I'm completely gonna delete all this stuff because this was just for an example. I will completely redo the worm in front of you the same way so you understand the process. Like I had a lot of trouble figuring out what is the best approach. To sorting things and to baking things. Obviously, every bake is different depending on the object. You have to do different tricks and develop your own little ideas. But at the end of the day, depends on what you want and how good you want it to be done, right? If you can fix it up with a couple of brush strokes, by all means you should. So in the next video we will do the worm and basically prepare the actual game assets, which, like, if you remember, we're actually making a game, right? So we need to get back to it instead of just working with cylinders and cubes and fucking spinning tops and that, all sorts of garbage that we don't need to use, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna redo the UVs because I was intending to use the I wanted to do this after we already done the the prototyping and the programming, but it just dawned on me that the game is just too simple for something like that, right? Usually you'd have a prototyping and initial testing stage, but in our case we just have two worms and a freaking net and a ball, right? And there's just not that much to prototype, okay? That's why I think we should just go through the whole thing. And also I will by that time have updated the painter so that we can take a look at the Substance Live Link with Unreal, which is very cool, by the way. This is Substance. This will be Substance 2017.4, and onwards will obviously be this will be available unless there's some some crazy voodoo magic available at that point as well. Like, I don't know what else they're gonna come up with. All right. Okay, woo, that was another long video. I'm sorry, guys, but I like to be coherent well, at least I try to be coherent when it comes to connecting two things together. And I think pipeline is important. You don't want to clog at the end, right? When you're ready with your asset, you don't want to start, well, how do I export this? Well, why doesn't this work? Well, why am I not getting a good bake? How can I fix this bake? Do I need to split this up? Where's my ID maps, etc., etc., etc.? Now, obviously, mistakes can happen, but you want to have a good understanding, at least a grasp of how your pipeline is going to look like. And if you decide, the reason you have to understand how this works is because first, obviously, on your own. But if you decide to insert a source control, a version control into your pipeline, then you know where to hook it in. All right, this is, for example, where you're going to be exchanging assets between Painter and Maya in the import folder, for example, of Unreal Engine. You could source control, version control the import folder. Not to mention that right now, because there's a live link between, well, in the next version, but right now, think of it right now, there's a live link between Painter and Unreal. This means that, first of all, Painter will be holding its project files inside Unreal's project directory, which is your game directory, right, where you're working on your game. So if you got version control on that, it automatically adds itself to, well, it doesn't automatically add itself, but you have to add it to the depot and perforce, and it will be there, right, all the time. It will be versioned, which is great because it allows you to rapidly iterate, and like, it's just amazing, okay? And that's why you have to just know how to maneuver around your own sort of office area, which is kind of like factories, right? You got your 3D model factory, which is Maya. And it also has the UVs and a bunch of other stuff. But obviously, when it comes to painting, Painter is king. Also, substance, but we're not going to be talking about that, I think, ever. You're going to have to learn that on your own or from Allegorithmic. Okay, bye-bye.